Hello and welcome to the Practice Marketing Podcast, highlighting successful strategies from North America's fastest growing clinics and experts so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. Hi, I'm your host, Neil Trickett, CEO of Practice Promotions. And today's focus, we're going to talk about how to possibly create this internship program in your practice and how that can help you hire more top talent. It's things that clinics are doing across the country here. Some are doing it well, some have done it sporadically or not doing it all. So we're with Dr. Ujjwal Shakya here, who is a longtime client of ours and a great guy here, super talented. He's been a physical therapist and the founder of MMA and Sports Rehab, a successful physical therapy practice in Arlington, Virginia. And of course, we could talk a lot about Ujjwal's success. He's got 2 doctorate degrees, one in PT and one in manual therapy. And he's won a bunch of awards here for Best in Arlington Award and Best in Physical Therapy. And in his free time, he's also very proficient at mixed martial arts and Muay Thai. But today we're going to talk about what he's done with his unique residency-like internship program that he set up for doctorate of physical therapy students at his practice. And he has a definite passion for teaching, wants to impart that holistic approach to physical therapy. And he's won Outstanding Clinical Educator awards from different universities. So whether you're a PT, a chiro, another medical practitioner, you're definitely going to learn a lot from Ujjwal's approach to creating the internship program. So Ujjwal, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you, Neil. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity to voice my experience and voice my opportunity to talk about what I have learned. So yeah, thank you so much for this.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. So you've created and really dialed in this internship program in your practice. And so how does that look? What does that entail? And what kind of problems does that help you solve?
Thank you. This is a great question. First of all, I just love teaching. I've been a clinician for last 15 years now, and I've been CI for last my first year since my first year. So I've always been into educator mode and teaching mode, and so what I found missing was when I was in a CI, that a student would come and follow me pretty much all the time, so we'll talk about real life case in a real time, but there was no structure to it, so it was difficult in that sense, the people would just come in and go, but there was no structure on how the education was being instructed, how the teaching was being done. Even when I look back when I was a student, my CIs, they were great too, and but I would just follow them, I would just look at them, and they would teach me on the real time, and what questions I have and whatnot. But the lack of I think the structure, I think was missing, what else can be done, so this is and back in 2017, I think this is where I thought, what can I do, what can we do to improve this, and this is where I did a lot of soul searching, did a lot of research, and saying, I what would a student want, what would a student need, and I did talk to my students a lot, and try to get their information, try to get their insight of, how can I make this better, and I myself put in their shoes and said, if I was a student, what would like to have, and what would like to learn, what would make me a better clinician, so this all leads to this clinical module that we have created in MSR, which is very robust, and for week to week, that will be the residency and affiliative style, and even when I did my residency, and it was really great, where I learned a lot. The thing that I missed was they would teach a lot of didactic things, that one I already learned in PT school, and second I need to learn a little more, so PT students are already learning this didactics information through schooling, what I thought was missing were a lot of intricate other things, that nuances of other things that would make a complete clinician, be communication skills, be psychology, be pain science, be even express prescription, and be different school of thought, so not so much about how to do goni or how to do a range of motion, MMT. I'm other schools and other clinicians can teach you that. I'm I can teach you that. I'm the point was, how can you make this more, how can you be different, and how can you wow the students, like, all right, PT or being a clinician is much more than just doing MMT and a range of motion,
Yeah.
being clinician is much more about, just taking a history and trying to come up with a diagnosis,
Mhm.
so this is where we did a lot of soul searching, and then we come up with this uh, module where, all right, how can we include all this communication stuff, strategies, all the intricate details about different school of thoughts, like in this, instead of just in one school of thought, we as a physical therapist, we do rely on a lot of biomechanic, biopsychosocial, but are there anything else out there that we can include, in our patient care, more tools in your box? That'll be always, because there always going to be people who's going to respond really well to one to other, but if you have a lot of different things that you can throw out, and the patient will get better, our patient may respond to better. So be open about all those different things. So try to
Yeah.
put it all this together. This is where I created all this module that we can talk
I,
about it more in
yeah, I
detail.
love what you've done there. Really thought about it from a structured standpoint, right? And so I think like we should talk first about let's talk about why. Like, why should you put
Great.
the effort right into putting internship program together, or if you've got one sort of happening right now, you take an intern or two, like making it more structured, because what we're seeing here across the board is over the years the fight for talent has gotten harder and harder and harder,
Correct.
right? And it's not going to get easier anytime soon. We're not graduating enough, students from school. The demand is going up. So there's going to be this increasing fight for talent, and you better, if you want to scale your business, you better have a fantastic recruiting program, internship program, marketing for talent. And let's face it, I always love having new students because and new grads because they're moldable, right? They don't come in with a bunch of baggage or issues from previous employment, and you can mold them better and do that. But I think it starts out with a great internship program because that's your segue to get to them. Let's face it, I think in today's world too, most students are coming out of school with pretty much a job offer already ready to go, right? So you got to be there ahead of the game. And I love what you said there, what can make you different, what can make your program different and stand out in that student's mind as they're getting all these different job opportunities out there. So have you thought about that as you approach
Yes,
this?
yes, and obviously, there's two part to every thing, right? So definitely there's the education part, where how can I make it different, how can I make it better from educational standpoint, but if on the hindsight, if you do you are thinking it that way, but the other side of the thing is, well, this is going to help you in a lot of different ways, you're creating an ecosystem, where you are building possible, one, it could be think about a student, you're building the student in a possible um, um, employee, and you're training them that you want to train, that goes along with your values, that goes along with the principles of and how you run the business, and so when the student sees this, a lot of time we put on them, sees the value of how the clinic is taking care of them, and wow them with the amount of education, the amount of care, respect, and attention in detail that the students will love to work in your place. Or if they cannot work for some reason, they will respond, they will recommend to somebody, like their friends and their coworkers or their peers, to come and work with us if you need us, and this has happened in the past to us, where where one, either a student has become an employee, or if you need an employee, I reach out to the students, and then they have recommended their friends who has become our employee. So again, I'm what there's a one education aspect of what I created, and that was the
Mhm.
primary reason. But at the same time, there's so much of unseen and benefit of creating this great uh, residency style module, that you are doing for the students, by the students, so when at the end, at the same time, if they need a job, the most likely they come and work with you because they feel what's the value you're creating.
Yeah, you stand out in their mind from the
Correct.
beginning,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Before they even get into the job market there. And I love the way that you're talking about this. It's like residency style. internship program, right? Because you're so right. I can recall when I was a student, right, and you're going in and you have some great clinical instructor CIs, um, but usually it's just on them
Mhm.
to kind of guide you, and you shadow them, and they talk about stuff with you and show you different things, but there's really not a lot of times a structure to like different parts that you're going to learn along the way. Your school might have some structure, but it's really up to that clinical instructor the way that they're gonna teach you. But I love the way that you're talking about it as a residency style. So what is that internship experience like?
So so what happens is that they use the contact a year before, and they come for internship, and what do I usually do is, I 2 weeks before contact us, and we give basically a module to them, so they uh, they are aware of, what's going to be on a week to week basis, and what we have created is, what would the student need on a week to week basis, like what type of information, obviously there will be a lot of intricate details on examination stuff, and a lot of school work that usually they are pretty aware of it anyway. What we have done is, all right, what are the other nuances that we can add on, communications things, different school of thought,
Mhm.
and the list goes on. And we have done in the weekly to weekly, we are creating headings, which has been actually co-authored by my students, because I teach a lot. So in the past, what I've done is, I would teach something right in the moment, where, and then it will go away, and the new student will come in, and I teach the same thing, so
Mhm.
I'm like, what, I'm being very repetitious, and second, I can either record it or actually have somebody write what I'm writing, what I'm teaching, and have them research a little bit to have evidence to back it up, and make a beautiful paper out of it,
Mhm.
and that's how I started. And next thing you know, I have about 200 to 300 pages of stuff that I teach now.
Yeah.
One thing you do other things, one thing do other things, and then when the student sees this, all right, wow, this is a little more way in detail,
Mhm.
and they love when they see that different aspect of being a clinician, and it started with simple thing, all right, I'm teaching you already, then I asked the student, why don't you write this down, and then they wrote it down. Then, how about you come up with some evidence to back it up, what we just say, and boom, like there. Next thing you know, it's like a 6 page paper, and then we compound. Next thing you know, I have like 40 different things that we can talk about, that can happen when you work with the patient care, and is not just the from education standpoint, about this technique,
Mhm.
or things that you learn in school is much more different than that. A lot of things happens in clinic. What happens when you do work with the patients when they are worse the next day. And what do you do? So do you have the strategies? What do you do?
Mhm.
How do you talk to the patient? Who is very chatty, and stuff like that. What is the first minute of communications you're supposed to be, where you wow the patients, welcome the patients, make sure you kind of calm down the patients if they are in pain, their anxiety going on. What type of what type of communication strategy you should use, what kind of communication you should use, and the last minute where, people are always going to remember the first thing and last thing, make sure you have the last minute of that, the verbiage that you use, simple things like that, which we do anyway, but a little more structure where it's written down. And when students sees those things where nobody probably never thought of that, or the second, when it's out there, it's so easily implemented, and they appreciate it so much because they see the value in that.
Yeah, and Ujjwal did share with me his outline
Yeah.
of of his program. It's really fantastic. Just it doesn't have to be super complicated. So if you're building your own, right, just like what are those common things? And I think what you've done really, really well is you said it at the beginning was that the students are coming out of school with a lot of the technical stuff. So you don't
Right.
really need to reteach the technical
No.
stuff. What they really need is the soft skills, right? And the soft skills are like you said, like how do you talk to a patient this way? What's the first things that you should be saying in that first minute? How do you end the evaluation? How do you deal with that patient who's in pain the next day? So that's all those little like soft skills and nuances that they're just not going to get in the college university environment, right? But that's going
Exactly.
to get in real world environment, real world skills that way.
And don't get me wrong, like we do teach a lot of objective skills where like doing examinations in certain ways, like
Hmm.
doing a special taste certain ways, and we do all those things too, like and very in detail. But what I'm highlighting is a lot of other things I just said. Nobody talks about it. Like
Yeah.
it gets missed because we're so focused on what you need to know to pass the board exam. But again, the goal of this module is to create the complete clinician. And to be a complete clinician, you need to be much more than just the books. You have
Yeah.
to work with the people who is in pain. We have to work with the people who are not themselves because they have all the symptoms. So you really have to relate to those things from a psychology standpoint, from empathy standpoint, from communication standpoint, and also from a clinician standpoint, like you need to be much more than just what you are. Like, and if you are just one biased PT,
Hmm.
or if you're a strength guy, just okay, strength and loading is great, but it's not the only thing. Do you have something else that you can pull out from there? A
Yeah.
lot of things works. And what works is something that you need to continue to try, and then you hope for the best. So that's the idea behind what we try to teach our students. Be open about everything,
Yeah.
rather than, okay, you know what, this is what the research suggests, and this is the only thing I would do. You'd be surprised, it doesn't work for everybody.
Hmm.
So be open with everything and be a sponge. Just take it in, and don't be biased with regardless of what research says and not says.
Hmm.
You respect what research says, but even as base care in our professions, only so much.
Yeah. So I really love the way that you looked at that, and again, you're trying to have this um this kind of whole package clinician, right? And so I think you could probably even take that to just general onboarding, right?
Correct.
With new clinicians, right? Have you found that too? Like since you kind of worked on the internship side, there was things that flowed over into how you onboard people who aren't in internship program coming in as employees.
Yeah, very good question. We did, so I help people, for somebody who is going through SCS program, so they work in somewhere else and they reach out to me, and since I'm SCS, they want to work under me and stuff like that, and they come and they work under us, and so I go through some of this program too, and it works very well, not just from a regular DPT student standpoint, but also
Hmm.
works really well for seasoned clinicians, obviously, because not everybody is doing that. And
Right.
it's good to have those little nuances, and a lot, to be able to that. And great thing you asked. I had a couple of those people who are who has done a lot of great things. One of the guys just went to NBA actually just a few years back, who was with me from the not just student standpoint, but from clinician standpoint, who came to
Hmm.
us. Yes.
Oh, that's really neat. And so, as you work with the interns as they come through, what kind of mindset are they leaving with after their experience with you?
Great question. This is what I would tell my students. Do not be afraid of any diagnosis. From education standpoint,
Hmm.
from clinician standpoint, do not be afraid of any diagnosis, regardless of whoever come in. And with the Parkinson's, cancer, it doesn't really matter. We don't treat medical diagnosis anyway. So, but people freak out. They see TMJ, they see vertigo, they see cancer. How do I treat? What do I treat? I don't even know. I don't treat this. I just treat back and knee or whatever that is. Now you can choose, pick and choose what population you'd like to treat in the future or later on, but you can treat anybody. If you have a good communication skills, good interpersonal skills, good diagnostic skills. So and if you can't treat, I'm like, you can treat, and that's the main mindset that I teach my students. You can treat anybody. So if you have that mindset, and take the fear out, and one, you can help the patient, or you can help the patients and maybe recommend some recommend patient to a specialty that can also help more patients. Or you can, even if you cannot help the patient, you can be a great resource for a patient so they can get help somewhere else. So you're helping anyway, rather than say like, oh, it's not my thing and I cannot help you anymore. You can still helping, in a lot of different ways to the patient, and be a resource. So I would say that's the mindset that I like to create to my students, and so be much more than just a clinician. So be a great resource.
Yeah.
And I think this is great from a lot of different angles. So when you try to maneuver and trying to function that way, like, and it goes a long distance, like, and the patient becomes a billboard, like, staff becomes a billboard, and communities really recognize you as a leader and educator, and the expert, like, because you're going to portray that way.
Hmm. And so, obviously you put a lot of work into this internship program and the structure of it. So, what would you say is the benefits of that been to, say, the students and the relationships with universities that you've had?
Yeah, so this is great. Like, this has allowed me to have great relationship with the local university. Like, obviously we have a lot of interest from a lot of out of state or a lot of out of cities universities wanted to work with us. Like, and but I try to keep it very simple. Like, I try to keep it with two local university, Marymount University and George Washington universities. So definitely it has created a good bond. Like, and I was there to help them out. Like, they also seek out great personalities to send it to us. Like, and it's a win-win situation for MSR and for university too. So we're helping each other out. Like, and if I do need help or anything like that, I can reach out to them, and they're very very helpful in that sense
Hmm.
in a lot of different ways. So it can go wrong creating a good relationship with the local universities.
Yeah, and I found that too. Like, so we had an internship program in our practice, and then here at Practice Promotions, we also take a lot of interns in digital marketing, things like that. Because we're doing the same thing. We're cultivating,
Mhm.
it's a a fight for talent, right? Good
But
talent,
yeah,
and so we're doing the exact same thing here at Practice Promotions for digital marketing, different specialists there. So I think one thing that I found is that when you do structure it out better and you put more attention on that, the your recognition with those universities elevates, and what happens is then you have a good relationship with the professors over there, and you can say, hey, if we like to take your top 10 or 25% students, right? And so they'll send over the good ones to you,
yeah.
and then you again that kind of allows you to have that benefit of being able to work with and train and if have opportunities to offer positions to more top talented individuals in those programs.
And I agree with that. Because of things we do, and because they are aware of what we do and how we are different than the other clinics. Everybody's good in a sense, but we're definitely a little different from our name standpoint, like, from patient population standpoint, and a lot of things we have done. So they really recognize us, and then what they have done is what they have usually do is they send all the top of the crimps, like, and they send people who are really interested because we are different from the get-go. So what we get is a lot of top of the talent, actually, like, it's a lot of students who are really into learning, and we're really into trying to be accepting being different, like, because they're coming MMA and sports here. A lot of people who don't want to work in hospital, they'll come to us, like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just
Mhm.
that they know that they are coming in a territory where it's going to be a little different, like, where we see different clientele, our patients, or they're going to see a lot of things we do a lot of differently, like, and not saying that other clinics wouldn't do, but since we have that already mindset, and already have a history of it, like, so we do already see basically a lot of students who are already super motivated,
Mhm.
super like, respectful, and really ready to learn. They are there to ready to learn, basically.
Do you want more freedom in your clinic? Then you need to work on your business, not just in it. The top practice owners know that they need a marketing system that consistently attracts patients from the internet. And at Practice Promotions, we've helped hundreds of practice owners skyrocket to the top of Google and get more new patients from online. Go to practicepromotions.net/kit to get our free practice marketing sample kit. It includes all our digital marketing tips and tricks that will get you new patients from Google. That's practicepromotions.net/kit, KIT, for a free marketing kit. And now back to the show.
That's fantastic. And so what's the benefits to say your staff or your business that you found out since like putting the effort into this? The
A very
internship?
good question. So this internship program that I've created is not just for my students, DPT students. So being educator, like, I'm always there, trying to teach everybody who wants to be taught. And so this is for them too. And if they want help, and a lot of my employees want either was student, or if they're not a student, they're always there trying to learn from me. So and then I will learn from them if they have something new for them. I learn from my students all the time. So what this creates is it creates a really um, great educational environment, very fulfilling environment where we are always trying to do something different, something good, something new. And we do a lot of cohesive teamwork, where if some patients are not getting better, we do things in real time where they pull me out, I go in, stuff like that, and
Mhm.
so there's a lot of things happening at the real time where nurturing learning environment is being created, and as I see all these, especially the new PTs, they love it. They love it,
Yeah.
and all my employees love that nurturing learning environment that is there and is more welcome, should I say?
Yeah.
And
So
now
does that help like the fulfillment of the therapists that are currently the clinicians that are currently there? Do they find that more that like the exciting to be part of that and helping to train students?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Most of my employees, are there. We talk in case studies all the time. The way I teach is every case is a case study, right? So we are basically right there all the time, and they always come up with questions, and I come up with the questions, we try to co-treat all the time and come up with this better solution for the patient care. And this is happening not just from the educational and the clinical side of it, but what this creates is the little bit of self-fulfillment, as a
Mhm.
clinician, because everybody come to medical job, or should I say, to help people, so when you have all this extra help and amenities to make you feel better, from a clinical standpoint, it will also help you from the psychological and more from a spiritual standpoint, you are doing something good,
Yeah.
so that environment is very important, rather than being stagnant, where there's no such help, because and especially with the new clinicians and students, it's going to be very difficult, because they will come across situations where they are getting stuck, at second they don't know what they're doing, as third, they have no confidence, what to do next, so so having a little good platform of, okay, where do we go next and what to do, and the room for discussion and the room for improvement, when you have this nurturing environment is there, then most people, I would say, will love that, and that's what something we try to provide,
Mhm.
and we go from there.
Yeah, I can only imagine like again, we're fighting to get good talent to
Very,
work
very,
for us,
yeah.
right? But it's also very important that we work on the culture of the business to retain the top talent with us
Yes,
too. And I think, what you've done there too is all part of enhancing that culture when people feel like they can give back, when they can work with students and develop them. It's just very fulfilling, right? And so if they've
it's
got some direction, if they can be part of that structure with that too, I think that really, makes you want to stay at that job.
you make a very, very valid point, and and when they see students coming in, one, they can be a part of it too, so they learn a lot unknowingly, because a lot of things, a lot of ideas are bounced around, when a lot of ideas are bounced around, you can pick and choose, so
Mhm.
instead of you thinking everything, you can only think 10 things, the next thing 20 things are out there, you can pick and choose those things, and it really, it creates very, you know students would come with a really fresh,
Mhm.
aura and energy, they are so excited, so they bring a lot of things that when you become a clinician, it becomes a little stagnant, and so for the fellow clinicians, when they see all those things, they're excited, they're making jokes, they're talking about cases, they're bouncing ideas, so when you have like-minded individual and personalities, and for a better patient care and clinical care, it's just a snowball effect, you have a bad snowball effect, you have a good snowball effect, and when one thing leads to other things, and it just grows from there,
Mhm. And so, just off the cuff here, if
yes.
if it's if you haven't started or had interns in in your clinic before, like what would be some easy ways for a practice owner to start going in that direction of hey, maybe can start bringing on some interns here. What would they need to like do in general to get started?
Yes, the question is like, how do you create one, or like how do you create
Yeah, so like how what
one?
would they do to create one and start reaching out to some schools and
Yeah, it's a
that?
great question you asked. Like, since I've been doing for a long time, and when I was working with the company, I'm like, they would have a CCE, which is basically somebody who talks to the universities and create this all this students influx and create a student program. But if you are there, small clinic or big clinic, or you haven't had a student program, the first thing I would do is just reach out to the universities, like, hey, we're interested in student program, and feel free to send people. I'm really interested. I think it's very important to create your why. Why do you want a student program, and also like what type of students you want to do. So you have to be little. If you are more open and clear about, like, who you are, and who your clinic is, I think university will love that, rather than saying like, ex physical therapy, orthopedic stuff. Like, you can say like, hey, like, we specialize in this, like, we see this kind of population student who is really interested in this can come here. And out
Mhm.
of those 40 students, I'm sure there'll be like 3 or 4 who's going to be just wow just by looking at your description, like,
Yeah.
you being very specific. And that's what you want, like, that you want the top of the cream who is really interested in what you're selling, and what you're giving. You
Hmm.
don't want just X amount of students, like, who are just there to get your hours. It
Right.
doesn't, the energy is not going to be the same, like, they're not going to bring the same aura, like, you're not going to create the same aura, because you're like, it's a waste of time, like, because you see what I'm saying, like, somebody who's not interested and they're just there just to complete the internship.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
not
you
fun.
gotta have that match, right? And the match
Yeah,
of
yeah.
what they
So
want to do and what you can offer. Right?
exactly. So when you know you have a clinic and who does certain things, just highlight that and create that, and and kind of basically magnet those type of individual come to it. So that
Mhm.
means you have to do the soul searching and figure out who you are, who your clinic is. Like, it could be anything, whatever that is. So if
Yeah.
you do that way and you send it to universities, hey, I'm interested, they are more than happy. I talk to universities all the time. They have such a hard time finding rotations, especially after COVID, that they will welcome any probably rotations, like, especially if you are a specialized rotation, even better, like,
Hmm.
because they're always going to be students who want to do certain route, like, so you're going to have more chance of getting people in, like,
Yeah.
so.
That's great
And
for our listeners to understand is that universities a lot of times need you more
yes,
than you need them, right? And so
very, very,
so they want you, right? So
yeah,
don't be afraid to reach out.
perfect, because like, you're not getting paid for this, okay? And so as a clinician, it's obviously it's difficult, like, a lot of people, the reason a lot of clinic don't do it, or a lot of clinicians don't even bother to do that, is because there is no monetary gain, straight monetary gain from this type of um, experience that you were providing, like, but let's look at the big picture, like, the big picture is like, one, it helps you be on your toes, it helps you be a better clinician. If you can teach, you're definitely better than somebody who does not, and it keeps your game really high. And from clinic standpoint, like, potential employee is right in front of you. It's up to you to groom that potential employee and allow that potential employee to come to you if you need one.
Mhm.
Or you create this bond forever, and if you ever need one, you can always reach out to them and know what if they can come, or they can help you.
Yeah.
You know, to find somebody who is in need. So there's so much of intricate things are happening that you don't know, and then if you do good thing will happen.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. It's to me, it's really a long-term game, right? You
Definitely,
have to,
I
it's a
think
big picture game. If you need someone to work in your practice pretty quickly, like this isn't the thing to fulfill that, right? But this is what sets you up for long-term success with being able to scale your practice. Um, like you said, there's so many like intangible benefits to running it.
you you
Um,
you put it so well. It is about the long term, like, it is about the big picture, like, so you don't see it right in front of you, but it's creating so many intricate things for the future, and a lot of things that happen at the same time, a lot of people will say, like, what about the patient? The patients would love those things, especially the student coming around. In our clinic, there's no patient that I've seen that get uncomfortable with the student being around. So it's up to you to create an environment. When you create this great innovative environment where the students are creating fresh ideas, we're having fun, and the students and the patients are part of it. They love it that
Yeah.
you are one educator, you're winning all these awards and whatnot. And students are there so smart. So it gives them kind of like a sense of idea that you are the expert.
Yeah.
You
I find that's a great marketing angle
oh yeah,
too
oh yeah,
for your
unseen,
patients, right? Because you're
unspoken.
a teaching clinic, right? It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
So because it's all about perception,
Yeah.
so you are who you are. You can be really good, but if you don't portray in a way, then people don't know who you are. So
Mhm.
if you come across hey, you're teaching somebody in front of them, you're getting the results. You need to get results. If you give the results in the real time, and the patient's like, oh my god, yes, I'm one, he is definitely, he knows what he need to knows, and definitely an expert, and so it really creates a sense of positive impact and positive energy on them, all right, I'm in the right spot, I think I have hardly have seen any patients who are uncomfortable with the student being around,
Yeah.
but again, it's up to you to create that energy.
Yeah. And so, there is a lot of benefits too. Was there any main challenge or something that was hard for you to overcome in doing your internship program or putting that together?
So I think that's a great question. I'll ask you. I'll give you my experience on a couple of things. So one was to starting it. It was to create this rigorous type of residency style of my internship, our internships, I'd say, was not challenging in a sense because I already was doing it. But challenging was I had to write it.
Mhm.
So what I did is I write a couple of them, few of them. I wrote initially I wrote a lot, of how I teach, so I did write. So what I figured out is I'm teaching this to students anyway, so I'm teaching this to students anyway. So I will have students, hey, why don't you write what I just told you, you know? Then they will write something that like, can you come with some evidence to back that up, you know? And then next, it becomes a paper now,
Yeah.
so every internship I had, I created like 5, 6, and it just adds up. Now I've been doing this for a long time. So now what I did is sometimes what I did, I created a really nice article, and then I said like, hey, can you revise this article? Can you add new nuances or new research or whatever that is, And sometimes I recreate the same article that like exercise prescription. I have a whole detailed exercise prescription, it's not just it's just short or stretch it. If it's tight, you stretch it, or if it's a weak, you strengthen. It's much more than exercise prescription is much more than that. How about the getting exercise for coordination, range of motion, tissue repair, vascularization? Just go for it, and then all the curve, strength curve, whatever that is, So you teach those things anyway. So I have students, hey, come up with those things. I want
Mhm.
you to have some evidence to this. And the most important thing I will tell them to write is, how can you apply this? What is the clinical implication of this each and every article? Because as a student, what they do is they learn a lot. They learn from books a lot. They learn from teachers a lot, and all these articles and all the research, they will teach you a lot of different things. What they don't teach or they don't teach enough is how can you use that information clinically. you know
Mhm.
so my biggest thing is I don't really care about the big words. I don't really care about the big research data and results and discussions, whatever that is. Can you use that in a patient? How can you use it in clinical application? So implications, should I say?
Yeah.
So application. So I always teach them. So what they do is whenever they write an article, all right, this is what we're going to use in a clinical application. When that happens, the practicality is going to be there, the retention is going to be there, because I can teach 1,000 things and they are already learning like a million things. So if they continue to just learn, it's just going to go here and go out,
Yeah.
there's no
One
retention.
thing I just learned from you though is that you don't have to create this whole big thing from start,
No,
right? And make it simple, right?
no.
Get going and just have a simple outline. And then you built it along the way, right? And
Right.
had the students collaborate as part of that, and they do the research because that's what they want to be doing anyway, right? And bring it to
Yeah, go
validate.
back. If I were to go back, I was being very detailed about what I was saying. Like if I had to go back, I'm like, just have a blueprint. Talk to the students. And what they would like. What they want, what they need. Put yourself in students' shoes and say like, what would they would like. And come up with a blueprint.
Hmm.
And if you come up with a blueprint and just start one, you don't need to have everything. And like they are learning so much by just observing anyway.
Yeah.
So, but if you can add all the other things, I'm like, it's the top of the cream because nobody's providing that, and they're
Mhm.
probably not learning those things, and they probably will learn as with experience anyway. But sooner they learn, that will make them a better clinicians and complete clinicians, and they will thank you. They are very appreciative of what kind of knowledge they're getting when you see all those things. And if you keep teaching the same thing that the school is teaching, I'm like Goni and a range of motion, everybody's teaching that thing, right?
Yeah.
Should be much more than that.
Yeah. I love the way that you put that together. It really makes a lot of sense. And I know that we've been talking a lot here about putting the internship program in, but you've also built a very successful practice, and we worked together for quite a few years here. And so I'm curious if you have advice for our listeners out there, a few marketing tips that you found effective to grow your practice to where it is today.
Yeah, I've been very thankful to Neil. I still remember meeting you back in, I think, Dallas Fort Worth, one of those I think Ascent conference, and it was amazing. And back then I was a very small one man army, and still very small compared to a lot of people. And what we understood was we need a good website, and we understood the power of social media. We understood the power of internet, and we've been working with practice promotion since 2016, and they've been great. You guys have been great about listening to us, and that's what we teach to students actually. So you got to listen to uh, to understand rather than listen to respond. You guys have been great. Whatever I ask, you guys have delivered. And the biggest thing I would say is you got to have a great website. And people are using their phones and a computer to search for anything and everything. So if they look for you, you better stand out. So having a great website is a big thing and a positive thing. And what should be in the website is also very important. You should look professional. So it doesn't matter how good you are, doesn't matter how great you are, if you don't portray that way and people don't perceive you from the get-go. And like we talk about, first impression, if you don't have that, then you're missing the boat. You're missing the point. So having a great website has been great. And Neil has been great with our website, and our website has been the model website for many years. And our our patients love our websites. I hear all the comments from different clinic owners of having a great website and whatnot. And yeah, practice Moves has always helped and gives ideas like how to make it better. Another component I would say is newsletters. I never thought too much about newsletters, but I think newsletters are great too, and I've used extensively with the practice promotions. And I think that's a great way to keep your past patients and current patients to you. There's already there. There's no point to look for hunting for new patients, which is important. But don't forget about your already established patients load that, and continue to build relationship and continue to tell them your stories, and be more. What we have done with the newsletter is be more exclusive and also more personalized. Create your personalized content to as much as possible, because out of 100 people who reads, maybe like 10 people that read, and they need to be connected. And it's been great. And having great website, newsletters, all the program that participants. And my another and last thing that I would say about marketing, if I have to give some suggestion, is get reviews. So we talked this about 4 years 5 years ago with Neil. And internet is real. Social media is real. Getting reviews is real. Get them as early as you can. Don't wait for discharge. And get as much as you can. Just ask for it. And I would even recommend, which I have is we have a what we call is we even give some form of what's the word I'm looking for is we even give some internship so not internship, so I'm stopping on the word, like we even like give prizes to our clinicians who get reviews, because reviews are very important, we tell them and we explain them why reviews are important, and so the reviews has made us number one in Google for a long, long time, and we're a very small clinic in Arlington, Virginia, which is very heavy packed with all the big guys, and so yeah, and
Yeah.
online marketing is really, really important, and be on top of it.
Yep, and Ujjwal is definitely, you are the master of reviews. You get enormous amount of reviews from all different platforms. So kudos to you and your team for getting that like you said, it's so important in today's world. I think too, from your website, one thing that's really cool is that you did put a lot of effort into your internship program page on your website. So that's another thing too, when clinical educators in the different university programs, as you reach out, something simple you can do is definitely add a page to your current website explaining, who you are, what you look for in internship, what the experience is going to be like coming to your practice. Gets people excited, gets those cream of the crop people coming from the universities checking you out, because they'll do a little look online before they decide on who they're going to apply to. So I think what you've done great on here too is you have some testimonials on there too from
Yes,
different
yes, and
students. Fantastic. I love that. Right.
this is great, like it's like you already have it right there, and I ask my student, hey, can you write what you have learned through our MSR internship, and they're more happy to write one, and then
Mm-hmm.
can you tell me why it was different, and if you have put more effort and trust and respect and put on the amount of work that you have done, and students will write one, a really good one, and I'm sure I have decent one in our pace, and my recommendation is please have that on your website, not just the prospective, I would say, DPT students or potential employees are looking at, or definitely a lot of potential employees are looking at them. So whenever,
Mm-hmm.
I try to hire them, go to Indeed or whatnot, they will look at that, because everybody's
Mm-hmm.
looking for mentorship program, unless you're a
Yeah.
seasoned clinician,
Okay.
and that's something that you definitely want to have that, but not just the DPT students. I have a very extensive program for my college students who are trying to go to DPT school, so obviously I have a pre-packed, we have fall semester, spring semester, and summer semester for all these DPT students, but also I try to carve time for this college students or even high school students sometimes, because these are important too, they, because you always want to come across, okay, the one, you don't have to teach as much, but you can still teach a lot, but when they are in the clinic, it creates a lot of good vibe, for
Mm-hmm.
the community, for the student, for the patients, because that you're giving back to the community, you're giving back to the profession, so this guy is going to be future leader, this guy is going to be a physical therapist, and it'd be great that if you are one of them who help them, so again, looking at the big picture, and I don't think anybody would not like that,
Right.
staff would love that, and patient who sees that will love that. You are being taught in the community that who you do those things, so there's a lot of positive things are being talked about and happen because of just small things,
Mm-hmm.
and high school students, college students, I'm and hey, I'm rather we don't have it, but I have those people becoming a tech, or something like that, or they can help them out, they can volunteership, they come and help all those office things, and but at the same time I'm teaching them, they're already learning, but they're also helping you out a lot of different ways,
Mm-hmm.
and the big picture is, I think you being judged as a good place, and that's what you need as a business, you need to have a really good uh, I use the word energy a lot. You have a good energy place to be in.
Good vibe.
A
Yeah.
vibe is the right word. People
The
who
good
come
vibe.
there wants to have fun, have to have experience.
Yeah.
You want to create an experience. For any business probably. One who is working there, one who comes to get a service. And one who just thinks about the place. You need to create a great energy and good vibe. And these are the small tools that you don't think of, but it does affect you in the long run. And it goes above and beyond. And as a clinician myself, when I see all those things and then see a lot of stories coming out of my past students, my past employees who have done a lot of great things, it means a lot.
Hmm. Yeah. And so if you get a chance, definitely check out rehabmma.com and go to the About Us. You can see the internship program page there that Ujjwal has put together. So, fantastic. Like you said, his website's fantastic. He put a lot of effort into great photography in the clinic, and it shows, right? Just you show that vibe, that energy, that experience from within the clinic, and it helps you draw in patients. It helps you draw in clinicians. So kudos to you for doing all that hard work there. So Ujjwal, thank you so much for sharing all your wonderful wisdom with us today. Any final words of advice to our audience?
Yes, I think what I like to, my last word would be building an ecosystem. It's a big word, so when you build an ecosystem like this, where you have a potential employee, working for you, yes, and it's a lot of give and take. You really have to give a lot. You have to give time, you have to give respect, you have to give a lot of professionalism. You have to give a lot, but in response, you're gonna get. So you building this ecosystem where it's feeding from each other, and it works a lot, it works well, it's a pain in the beginning, but if you look from the big picture standpoint, it's very, very fulfilling as a person and as an individual and as a clinician, but it helps you out in a lot of different ways,
Mhm.
definitely business wise.
Build that ecosystem. I love it. Awesome.
Thanks.
Well,
Thank you so
thank
much.
you. Yeah, thank you, Ujjwal. Thank you for all your insight there into building fantastic internship programs. So I hope that inspires our audience to go out there and start contacting their local universities to start helping out and teach our next generation
Yeah.
of clinicians coming to
Any
us.
listeners who wants to look at what my week to week is, and I share with Neil, feel free to take a look at it, and feel free to reach out to me if you need any help. I think a lot of people are doing it anyway, and so my recommendation is try to be different, and that different will go a long way, because those students needs a little more than just the regular stuff, and again, it will come back to you.
Absolutely. 100% agree. So thank you, Ujjwal. Appreciate it. Thank you
Thank
to
you,
our
Will.
audience out there. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on YouTube and all social media channels and our podcast here. So Neil Trickett here from CEO of Practice Promotions, wishing you much success in your practice.
Thank you for listening to the Practice Marketing Podcast. Don't forget to get your free practice marketing sample kit at practicepromotions.net/kit. Start 2024 off the right way by building marketing systems that automatically attract new patients from online. That's practicepromotions.net/kit.